So now you have a clearer understanding of what distinguishing means and how it works in practice. Let's explore overruling. What is overruling and how does it work? Overruling involves a superior court determining that a precedent that was normally binding is no longer good law. When a court does this, they are in effect changing the law. They are determining and declaring that the precedent in question is no longer to be applied in the English courts. This would work in this way. A court would be invited to apply a precedent, and the court would then determine that precedent is now being overruled. We are no longer going to follow that precedent, and we are going to make a decision different to the stance in that precedent in the case we are looking at now. It would mean that from that point on, the decision and the principles laid down in the new case becomes the newly applicable precedent, because the courts have declared that the old precedent is overruled, no longer applicable. Now, overruling is very different to distinguishing, because distinguishing doesn't involve a court saying that the previous precedent is no longer applicable. Distinguishing just involves looking at a precedent and the facts of a case that a court is dealing with in front of them and determining that the facts of the precedent and the current case are sufficiently different for the judge to not apply the precedent. That is totally different to overruling. Distinguishing is not changing the law, whereas overruling is changing the law. Another thing to note is that distinguishing can be done by any judge in any court. However, it is only superior courts which have the permission to overrule the decisions of courts below them. So the House of Lords can overrule a precedent set by the Court of Appeal, but the Court of Appeal cannot overrule a decision set by the House of Lords, which is now our Supreme Court. Another thing to note is that usually courts are also bound by their own previous decisions. However, following the 1966 practice statement, the Supreme Court can now sometimes overrule some of their previous decisions. So in the next part of the course, we're really going to look closely at how overruling works, and we're going to see how courts apply it in practice. So let's move on to the next part of the course.